Ever wonder how an AI goes from knowing a little bit about everything to being a world-class expert on one specific thing? Well, that's what we're talking about today. That journey from generalist to genius is a process called fine-tuning, and it's honestly one of the most powerful tools we have in AI right now.
I mean, you've seen it, right? Some chatbots are amazing specialists. They can draft legal documents or nail a specific brand's voice perfectly. Others, not so much. The secret isn't magic. It's all about giving that AI a very deliberate, very focused education. So this brings us to the first big question for any team working on this stuff: to tune or not to tune. It's a huge decision because while it's an incredibly powerful tool, it's not always the right one for the job. Let's dig into when and why you'd go down this path. Okay, so what is fine-tuning really? At its heart, it's pretty much what it sounds like. We take a big model that's already learned about language from, basically the entire internet, and then we put it through a specialized training course. And here's the key. This process permanently updates the model's internal knowledge. We're not just giving it notes to read, we are fundamentally changing how it thinks. We're sending it back to school.
And this is a really critical distinction to make. See, with things like prompting or retrieval augmented generation, RAG for short, it's like you're handing the AI a cheat sheet right before a test. The information is temporary. The AI's underlying knowledge doesn't actually change. Fine-tuning, on the other hand, is like performing brain surgery. It fundamentally alters the model. It internalizes the new info. The bottom line is this: you fine-tune when you need the model to become an expert, not just consult. So when is it actually worth all the effort? Well, you take the plunge when you need an AI to consistently nail your company's tone of voice, or when it needs to understand the deep, complex lingo of a field like medicine or finance. It's also a game changer when speed is absolutely everything. Or, and this is a big one, when you have to prove to auditors that your model holds specific, validated knowledge inside its own digital brain.
But, of course, there's no free lunch. This kind of power comes with trade-offs. When you fine-tune, you're essentially creating a brand new, custom model. That means you're signing up for higher costs to train it, a lot more complexity in maintaining it, and a really serious responsibility to manage the data you're feeding it. And that brings us to maybe the most important part of this whole process. If you're going to educate an AI, you better have the right textbooks. The quality of your fine-tuned model lives and dies by the quality of the data you train it on. Simple as that.
So before you even think about hitting train, you have to become a data detective. You've got to make sure every single label is correct and consistent. You have to hunt down and remove duplicates that could seriously bias your model. And this is absolutely crucial. You have to be certain you've scrubbed any private or sensitive information that you don't want the model memorizing and potentially spitting out later.
But what do you do when you just don't have enough real-world data to work with? That's where synthetic or AI-generated data comes into the picture. It's a really powerful way to bulk up your training set. But you guessed it, there's a trade-off. Real data is the gold standard, the ground truth. Synthetic data, if you're not careful, can introduce some really weird habits or biases into your model.
Okay, so our data is clean and ready to go. Now we get to the really fun part. How do we actually do the training? It turns out you're at a fork in the road here, with two very different paths you can take. On one side, you've got full model tuning. This is the brute force approach. You update every single one of the billions of parameters in the model. It gives you the most power, for sure, but the cost in both computing power and file size is just astronomical. The other path is a lot smarter. It's called parameter efficient fine-tuning, or PEFT. With PEFT, you freeze the huge original model and just train a tiny set of new parameters on top. It is incredibly efficient.
Now, one of the biggest reasons PFT was even invented was to avoid a scary-sounding problem called catastrophic forgetting. This is what can happen when you do full model tuning. You train the model so intensely on its new specialty that it literally forgets how to do the basic stuff it used to know. It's like turning someone into a brilliant surgeon who then forgets how to have a normal conversation.
So how does this PEFT magic work in practice? Well, there are a few popular flavors. LoRA is kind of the champion right now. It cleverly injects these tiny little updates and gets you almost the same performance as a full tune, but for a fraction of the cost. Then you have adapters, which are like little plugins for your model, great for adding skills you can stack on top of each other. And then there's prompt tuning, which is the most lightweight of them. And this might be the best part. All that complex-sounding theory about LoRA, thanks to amazing open source libraries out there, you can actually implement it with just a few lines of code, just like you're seeing here. This has made these incredibly powerful techniques accessible to pretty much everyone. It's a huge deal.
All right, we've trained our model, we're done, right? Nope, not even close. Now comes what is arguably the most important part of the whole journey, testing. We have to figure out, did we just cram a bunch of facts into this thing, or did we create something that's genuinely helpful, reliable, and safe?
This whole final stage is called alignment. It's all about polishing the model's behavior to make sure its goals are, well, aligned with ours. We want to be sure it's helpful, that it's honest, and that it's fundamentally harmless. One of the most common ways to do this is a method called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF. It's this really cool three-step dance. First, you get a bunch of humans to rate different AI answers, saying which one is better. Second, you train a totally separate AI called a reward model, whose only job is to learn how to predict what the humans will like. And finally, you fine-tune your main AI again, but this time, its only goal is to get the highest possible score from that reward model. It is literally learning to please its human teachers.
But RLHF isn't a silver bullet. It has some real risks. Reward hacking is a big one. That's where the AI figures out a clever loophole to get a good score without actually being helpful. Think of a student who is a master at passing tests but doesn't really learn the material. There's also the risk that the AI just ends up mimicking the specific biases of the humans who rated its answers in the first place. And because of those risks, a proper evaluation has to be a multi-pronged attack. You need automated tests checking for things like accuracy and factuality. You need rigorous, standardized testing by real humans. And you need something called red teaming, which is basically where experts try their hardest to break the model, to trick it into doing something bad, so you can find all its hidden flaws before it gets out into the real world. And even after all of that, the journey still isn't over. Once you finally deploy that model into the wild, the learning and the monitoring has to keep going. An expert's education, it turns out, is never really finished. The number one challenge once a model goes live is a problem called drift. The world doesn't stand still, right? Things are constantly changing, and a model that was a perfect expert yesterday can become outdated tomorrow. That means you have to watch it like a hawk. And there are a few kinds of drift to look out for. There's data drift. That's when your users start asking new kinds of questions you didn't anticipate. There's model drift. That's when the world changes and the model's old answers just aren't accurate anymore. And of course, you always have to be monitoring things like cost and speed to make sure your expert AI isn't getting too slow or too expensive to run. All of this leads to a continuous living cycle. It's not a straight line, it's a loop. You monitor the model out in the real world, you test its performance constantly, and when you spot that it's starting to drift, you go back, retrain it with new data, and redeploy the new and improved version. The process literally never stops. So what this all shows us is that creating a true AI expert isn't a one-and-done project. It's an ongoing commitment. And as this incredible technology gets easier and easier for everyone to use, it leaves us with a really important question to think about. As we build these amazingly powerful AI specialists, how do we make sure their expertise is used responsibly and in a way that truly benefits all of us?